It was a Tuesday morning. My roommate's TV turned on because that's how she set her alarm. And the first thing I saw was the Twin Towers, the first tower on fire. And I thought it was just some random, terrible B movie that showed up on like Sci-Fi Channel. And then when the second plane hit, that's when we knew it was real. And watching the people fall from the buildings was what really set us off that day.
I was in New York City at home in my apartment in the Bronx with my mother. I had stayed home from school that day because I was sick. She had the TV on, the news came on, and terrorist attack was the headline on there. My first question when I saw terrorist attack was, "Mom, what is that?" She explained to me the bad guys have come to attack us, so kind of the simplest form she could put it for me.
I was a member of the NSA Police Department. At the SOC office, we had 3 big screen TVs that were up. Looked at one TV. Were we imagining this? What an accident. Within a few minutes, here was the other plane. It just was crazy after that.
I was, in class. We finished saying the Pledge of Allegiance. 20 minutes passed by, and one of the other teachers comes into the room and says, "Hey, turn on the TV, something's going on." They were reporting airplanes that are flying into the World Trade Center. At that point in time, I wasn't able to mentally understand the magnitude of what was going on. As I walked, out of class and parents were picking them up, see the parents crying or the adults, they were kind of shaken up by everything.
I'd just gotten into a hotel for temporary housing, turned the news on and saw the first tower get hit. You've heard people say their heart sinking. It really did hit me pretty hard.
One of my branch chiefs was late because he'd been watching on television the first plane. At the time, we weren't really taking it as though the country were under attack or anything. But then when we heard all the commotion in our common area where most of the workforce was gathered around the television, then we suddenly knew something was going on.
I was in art class when the first plane struck the North Tower. And then they told us to file over to the library. So when we got over there, they turned on the TV, and just about that time is when the second plane struck the Twin Towers, and it was just dead quiet. Generally, when you're a kid and you look at an adult and they look scared, that makes you feel much worse.
I was actually holding that day an operations meeting, and we were waiting for the guests to arrive. My key contact was sitting there, and she received a phone call. And I could see by the look on her face that she was getting frantic and uncomfortable, and so she started saying, "Got to turn on the TV, we got to turn on the TV." So we plugged in the TV and saw what was going on, and both of us just speechless.
The only thing I remember now, 15 years later, is a roommate coming to me and saying, "Nathaniel, they've just taken out the Pentagon." And I was kind of rushing out the door for this appointment. I jumped in my car, and as soon as I showed up from their TV screen, we watched the towers fall, and I proceeded to spend most of the next 3 days in front of the screen.
I was actually driving into work, and I heard it on the radio. It was quite disturbing. They didn't know the identity of the airplane. They didn't know, of course, why. And once the second plane hit, it's just terrifying because you don't know what's going on. No one knew what was going on.
At one point, I took a call from our head person at the Pentagon, and I remember just the terrible fright in her voice. And she says, "John," she says, "I don't know what happened here. Something happened here at the Pentagon. We're being told we got to leave." And I said, "Marie, just be safe. Just leave and be safe. That's all there is to it." I know when it came time to leave, we were tired, we were exhausted. But then I didn't want to leave. Did I do everything that I could do? Is there more I can do?
It's like the world came to a stop. You just didn't know what to do. We were helpless for the people that were going through this and actually direct targets. And I have a strong faith, and I just prayed and prayed for the people and the families that were affected directly by what happened. I actually thought that we were headed towards the end. Just with everything that happened, I thought how could they even stop there? There's got to be more.
I was trying to get on with my work for the day, but I could not focus. The last I'd heard, his plane had been diverted. So I was very anxious to learn what the flight numbers were. I just wanted to hug my kids, and I wanted to hear from my husband. It was a day from hell, really. It was probably one of the worst days of my life, that's for sure.
I knew that I needed to get in here. I knew that we had to spin up real quick. When I thought about the work ahead, the organization I was going to run, that we were going to have to make kind of really a supreme effort, do what needed to be done to continue to protect our country, both in terms of going after the bad guy and then protecting our forces, communications, lives.
We didn't really know how to react. Were we under attack as well? Quite a few of my employees actually went out into the parking lot because they were scared. Was someone going to bomb us? Were there more airplanes in the air? But what I noticed as I looked up over the coming hours, more and more people were coming back to work. It was just really great to see everyone doing what we needed to do to keep America safe and to help figure out what was going on and feed the organizations that we work with. So when I finally did call my family, it was actually very emotional for me, and I just burst into tears because I'd been so mission focused. But when I was finally back in the mom mode and able to talk to my kids and just say, I'm going to miss bedtime tonight. Sorry. It's just then you remember what you're fighting for and really what it was all about.
I did not think that I would see something like that in my lifetime. I'm proud that I was on the NSA Police Department. I'm proud I work here at the agency. I was proud that I did what I had to do that day. I think we all learned, and we were all better for it.
I'd like to think that one of the biggest lessons learned that I've had is to make sure I'm looking up and around me within the intelligence community. You hear the phrase early on, connecting the dots, and I think that's morphed into intelligence integration. So now as I've moved up into a senior leadership position, I think that's my goal, just to make sure that we as NSA are integrated with our intelligence community partners and colleagues, just to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again for us, for our allies, for our families, for anyone.
We just said we need to, do what we need to do. Want our kids to be safe. Want our grandkids to grow up when they grow up to have the same freedoms we do, and that's what it's all about and what we're here for.
In all of my interviews, when I was interviewing, trying to get into the military, specifically a military academy, they asked me why, and I always told them the same thing. I watched the towers fall, and that motivated me to get into the service, to serve our country and try to defend against future attacks. Now that I've worked at the agency for some time and understand how it works and what it does, I've realized how much more of an impact I can make in the military, even though the majority of people will never know or understand it, is extremely validating to what I've done.
Between 9/11 happening and, as a kid, you tell yourself you want to stop those bad guys from coming, and my father, my entire family in the military, and those events occurring between all of that, that's pretty much what was the motivating factor for joining the military. 15 years later, after seeing what I saw as a 7-year-old, it kind of sealed the deal for me. This is what I want to do when it comes to the mission here.
I majored in business administration and saw the NSA, and I just, figured that would be something that interested me, due to the fact that, even though I'm not on the front lines, I still have a chance to impact, the nation as a whole.
As soon as we all came back to work, we were focused on the terrorism target. We needed to come up with new tools, new analysis. And so many folks were very motivated based on their patriotism.
Yeah, the fear of 9/11 and the later impacts, not knowing who would want to do something like that, and later coming out who actually facilitated the attack, definitely changed my perception of the world. 9/11 played a huge factor into all the different positions I've held here. I've switched from accounting to a different field, and the mission that we have is my passion. I love what this agency stands for. I love the people that we protect and why we're here and understanding the importance of everything that we do.
In that, I don't want to say moment, but in that time frame that I said, you know, I want to do what I can to fight this enemy. I loved my country so much. At that point, I just wanted to be a part of it and a part of the mission.
A lot of the images captured of people actually jumping from the towers made it maybe more real than seeing the towers themselves fall. When you're seeing people ending their lives because of what they were facing, that I think is what really captured my attention. 9/11 caused a shift in my mentality about what I wanted to do for a living and what would be most meaningful to me and this country that I love. This was a timeless event that, in terms of the threat, has absolutely not decreased in 15 years. And in fact, I think most people would agree it has increased. Our response needs to therefore always be in the making. And we as National Security Agency employees are an integral part of that response.